Hello! Welcome back to Jorbs Scribbles on the Screen, and talks about every card in the Slay the Spire Compendium. Now I'm talking about Ironwave. Ironwave is, I would say, one of the quirkiest Ironclad commons, which is weird because it looks like such a basic card, right? It is 1 energy, gain 5 block, deal 5 damage, and the upgrade is to 7 for both. And like, that's fine. These are okay numbers. It's not generally going to be a terrible card to have in your deck in Act 1. I will certainly say that. One of my favorite things about Ironwave, though, is that the card actually often ends up being worse than Defend at the end of the game, which is sort of impressive, because it looks like it just does approximately twice as much as Defend does, right? But the thing is that Defend is a skill, and skills scale off of like Corruption, Feel No Pain, Dark Embrace, Juggernaut. And so even if I'm building a deck with Juggernaut in it, Juggernaut deals damage every time you gain block, it might look like I'm excited to have an Ironwave in that deck because it's like an attack and it gains block, so it's gonna proc Juggernaut, cool. No, I'd like to put a Corruption, a Feel No Pain, and a Dark Embrace in that deck, and then play all of my defense. That's what I actually want to be doing with that deck. So Ironwave is this okay bridge card to get you toward mid and late game, but if you are relying on Ironwave to like interact with other cards or scale you up or something like that, something is usually going very wrong in your run. And I'm not saying that it's impossible to win by following through on that strategy, but it is so much harder to win doing that than it is to do the other more sensible, stronger things that Ironclad has available. So it has decent numbers early. It's an okay upgrade even. It fits well into Mana Curve is something that you talk about in Magic the Gathering, which you can maybe think about here with Ironclad, where Ironclad has 3 energy every turn and has a lot of access to 2-cost cards. So because of that, having good 1-cost cards becomes a pretty big deal to fill out your turns and make sure that you're drawing good hands that can do good things. Often, adding an Ironwave to your deck is significantly better than adding a Clothesline to your deck, because you already have like a Bash and a Carnage, and if you draw either of those, you're going to want to play them, and so you're only left able to play 1-cost cards on those turns. And Ironwave is certainly a better 1-cost card than Defend or Strike is early on in the run. But yeah, that said, if you're trying to win the run by proccing Juggernaut with Ironwave, or by playing 3 Ironwaves in the same turn to proc Kunai, which I've tried to do so many times because it seems like it would be so sweet, but if you're trying to win the run by doing that, it just usually doesn't work very well. Usually not what you want to be doing with Ironclad in general. I think one thing that new players get sort of tricked by with Ironwave is that it looks a lot like it's Dash for Silent. It looks a bit like it's Wallop for Watcher even. And Dash and Wallop are both significantly far better cards than Ironwave. And people get confused about that. It looks like Ironwave must be pretty good value then if Dash and Wallop are pretty good value. But the thing is that Dash and Wallop like have considerably better interactions with things that just come up fairly often. Stuff like Necronomicon or Snecko-Eye, for example. And even more often, like every single time you play the game, when you draw a Dash, it gives you the option to do twice as much than when you draw an Ironwave. And so you have to draw Ironwave twice in order to get 10 block and 10 damage from it for 2 energy. Whereas Dash, you just have to draw it once, and you get the option to get 10 block and 10 damage from it for 2 energy. Given that you start out the run with a deck with a bunch of Strikes and Defends and Ascender's Bane, you're trying to, as quickly as possible, add cards to your deck that let you regularly spend your energy on good things every turn. And if you're having to spend your energy on Strikes and Defends or other quite poor cards, which for what it's worth, Ironwave is going to become a pretty poor card by the time you get into like Act 2 or whatever, but if you're having to spend your energy on bad cards, then that sucks, and that's going to lead to you losing runs. And so Dash is much better at letting you spend energy in an efficient way than Iron Wave is, because it lets you spend twice as much energy in that way. It's a really important thing to note with a card like Iron Wave. You're still having to spend one card draw on it, so it still prevents you from getting to your incredibly important power, or from getting to your Immolate or whatever like great rare you have that you've picked up over the course of the run, but it's not letting you do as much when you draw it. So Iron Wave is okay. It's like an okay filler card in Act 1. If you have an Act 1 that's looking pretty tough, it's going to help you get through it. If you have the ability to get an extra upgrade in, I actually don't think it's bad at all to upgrade an Iron Wave. It's going to give you good damage in Act 1. You get attacked for 12 somewhat commonly in Act 1, and so it's going to let you play a defend and an Iron Wave plus and take 0 damage. 12 is just like a number you get attacked for somewhat commonly in this game. And yeah, even going into Act 2 it can be okay, but if you're leaning on Iron Waves going further than that, you're starting to worry, for sure. And you should not be trying to lean into them, and you should not be excited about taking more of them. And yeah, that's Iron Wave. It's an okay pickup in Act 1 if your act is looking pretty tough, but it is hard to be excited about this card. Cool. See you next time.